Okay, go.
More like
No, it's okay.
What's your name?
What the heck are we doing here?
Are we ready?
Yes.
No.
Go. We're on. It's on. You're
Okay,
on.
I am Peggy Blumenfeld Doggett. My father is Rene Blumenfeld, who is the son of Edith and Otto Eric Blumenfeld.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
You get
There he
a
is.
fine for that.
There he is, right there.
And that's my father.
It's Rene and his sister Mickie, and we're here to kind of talk about the family, and I guess the whole. Let's talk about the diary a little bit. What was that? What's that diary we've been talking about?
That was my grandfather, Theodore Tuch, his diary before he was sent to concentration camp. And he gave a daily report, maybe like a year before he went.
December 15, 1941 through July 10, 1942.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
It was
more
a
than
kind
a
of
year.
a satire.
A very
satire.
Very sad
satiric.
story.
Yeah.
What life was like living in Hamburg,
Yeah.
being Jewish.
Yeah, but Rene, you said it was satiric.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
There's
yes.
humor in it.
Yes.
Yes,
there
Well,
is.
yeah.
so.
He called my grandmother
Dark
Madame.
humor.
She was Madame all
Right.
the time.
The maid.
Yeah.
I was referred to her as the maid.
I remember him saying how she was, I guess, concerned with house cleaning or something, and that
Yes.
he thought she was incorrigible or
Overdoing
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then didn't she plant some vegetables and things?
And
And
then the rabbit ate it.
yes.
We were going to hunt the rabbit.
Well-fed rabbit.
Go get the rabbit and eat the rabbit.
Did you have
and
rabbit stew?
I got the impression she was just trying to live life day to day, and he was kind of always looking over his shoulder and knowing that they weren't going to be there
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
for very long.
So,
It was humorous and yet it was sad.
Well, okay, that's
So this is
that's
Clara.
Clara, and
here's a shot
And-
of
and-
the house.
yeah. Oh, their house in Billbrook?
It-
No,
let's
the
see.
house where they were
It's,
kept.
Let's see.
Volksdorf?
Folks.
No,
Folksdorf.
that's the
So
wrong
that's where
house.
they were detained, basically.
Yes, that was a suburb of Hamburg.
Yeah, and I remember our Aunt Martha, Aunt Inga actually told me that they took our Aunt Martha and took her out of her house, took her apartment, and they made her move in with some other elderly Jewish ladies, I guess. And it seemed like they kept moving her closer to the train station, is what they were doing. And finally, they sent her to Theresienstadt.
Yeah,
And where did they send your grandparents?
that's where they ended up too.
Theresienstadt.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they said
book
that
doesn't say
the
that.
book that we got from Hamburg
Right.
with all the Jewish people
Right.
that were killed, it said that they died in Minsk.
Minsk.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I
And
think
that's Poland.
I think they were transferred right.
Deported.
I read they were transferred out of Theresienstadt.
But they don't, they call it deported.
Deported.
People didn't die in Terezin.
Yeah.
Or,
Reason that's where they. That was that's in German.
they died of disease. That's
Right, but
what
that
happened.
wasn't a death camp.
No, it wasn't an extermination camp.
The thing that I think is interesting when my mom talks about her grandmother, Clara.
Tell her who you,
Oh, hi, I'm Jana
Hi, Jana.
Muscatel, and
my parents.
my parents are Mickie and Maury Muscatel.
Nee Blumenfeld.
Nee
Blumenfeld.
Blumenfeld. Anyway, my mother tells a story when she was young and she used to go to Clara's for breakfast, which I think is an important story because when you read about Clara in the diary, you really don't get this part. So that's what, like, anytime somebody's read the diary, then I let them know about the way I've always heard about this grandmother. It would be, is it my great-grandmother?
That would be
Yeah.
a great
My great-grandmother.
Right.
So, anyway, would you tell them the story of, like, when you used to put your little finger through the thingy? And
The drapes or whatever.
I used to take naps at my almost.
Hang on, Renee.
I used to take naps at my grandmother who lived downstairs from us. And I always went down every single day and had breakfast because she really made good jam.
Her second breakfast.
My mother was not the cook. She had a cook, she had a maid, and she really wasn't much of a cook, but my grandmother was. And then I would take a nap down there after she brushed my hair for about an hour, which I, to this day, still love. And she had these curtains above kind of like a little studio couch. And I would always put my finger in and out of the little lace curtains, and she'd come in, no, 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 don't you do that. And to this day, when I see these curtains, I always think of it, putting my little finger through, you know, like these lace tablecloths.
But you're able to contain your.
Not really.
I have some.
So, she was. I read Sephardic, Clara.
Came
Her
from-
mother
Sephardic.
was
Yeah.
And
Sephardic.
in fact, that was
from
one
Portugal.
of the things in the diary. I guess her husband would make fun of her
Yes.
because she, I guess, felt.
Spoke with an accent.
Yeah. No, she didn't speak with
No,
an accent.
what was it he said about her? She was.
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay. So he mocked her for being proud of her Sephardic
Right,
heritage.
Right.
Yeah. It was
That
cool.
sounds like our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Mickie does to me.
Is that off?
No, it's on.
No, it's on.
Keep going.
Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Well, I just reading in his diary. In his diary, it says about this term 9. January 8th. We all Jews have to leave Hamburg tomorrow. The first transport leaves. Probably we go to Theresienstadt.
Well, they might, but I know the book says they ended up, the last deportation was to Minsk.
Okay.
Yeah,
And this is
that's all I know.
Well, what's interesting to me is that our aunt, great aunt, she got sent to Theresienstadt within a few days of that herself. So they probably knew each other, knew of each other.
What did your great aunt's?
Her name was Martha
Hildesheim.
Hildesheim, and she was a school teacher. But she they had her, when she died, they diagnosed her with, we have the death certificate, they diagnosed her with dementia, so maybe I think the whole experience was probably too much for her.
very well
I don't know if
understandable.
she had any communications with your grandparents or
But
not.
I think you told me you thought she had died in Auschwitz, that they'd sent her on.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
But then later on, finally, they released the death certificate on the Czech government published it
Oh, I see.
online.
I see.
Otherwise, I had no way of knowing. Because some of the people from Theresienstadt did go to death camps.
Yeah.
So that diary it's been published in English and in German.
Right.
Didn't Uli?
Well, no, I think it was
published in
published
German.
it's in Israel too.
Yes.
It's in a museum in
Right.
Israel.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Do we know which one?
well, I thought you have the original diary here. I saw it.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, so is there another diary or just the one?
No, it's the same one, but I think he-
My mother sent it to Israel.
Oh,
Well, I thought Uli had it too, didn't he?
probably.
I don't know.
so how did they get the diary out of Germany? It was.
I think Uli was the one that had
It came.
No,
They.
we didn't have it.
No, he didn't.
I think it came, my mother got in touch with one of her cousins, Anna. Anna, I don't forget her last name, must have been Tuch, perhaps. And she lived all through the war in Berlin, and somehow they contacted each other, and she went to Germany after the war, probably in 1947 or 8, and met her, and that's when she got a lot of the papers. That's as far as I know, as far as I can remember.
Mhm.
But he had the diary when he was in Theresienstadt.
Yes, but
and
how it got to her
I don't know.
cousin, I don't know.
No,
don't know.
he let's see, he
So it's
smuggled
not-
it somehow out of Hamburg before they took him
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to
She must have given it.
That's what I've
stopped
read.
before they left Hamburg.
So that's probably how maybe.
The last portion of it, which brings you to tears practically, was when he was leaving Hamburg,
Mhm.
if I remember, from reading it.
Right.
So Anna Tuch had the diary during the war, and she was
That's where she got it, that's where my mother got it from.
was she Jewish, Anna?
Part, half, I think.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why she was still in existence in
Yeah.
Berlin. She
Yeah.
lived in
Could
Berlin.
save it, huh?
Yeah. So Oh, tell us more about Billbrook. You grew up in Billbrook?
I grew up there, yes, and it was a large house that we occupied along with the business offices of the laundry and dry cleaning and dyeing, commercial dyeing. And the properties were more or less to our disposal, and I remember...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is a drawing of Billbrook. It was made by a man named Schmidt,
Schmitz.
who is a driver for Karstadt Porges.
Right.
And that was the house and the office of the dry
Yes.
cleaning
And also
laundry
my
business.
grandparents lived there.
And aunt and uncle.
The grandparents being
Yeah.
Theodore and Clara Tuch,
Tuch.
and
Hans und Friedel
Rita,
Hansel Friedel.
Blumenfeld.
Blumenfeld
Yeah.
also lived there. Okay, thank you. Okay, and how did you come by that drawing? How did you get the drawing?
My mother got this when they went back to Germany, and she contacted Schmitz, and he drew it,
Smitty, was what
Smitty.
you call them.
and he copied it from a picture.
Oh, okay.
I thought you went and actually...
Here's
drew
kind
it.
of something
because
separate,
this is
but
an older picture.
this would be pretty much the
It didn't
last.
have all
Can
those trees.
can you zoom into this?
Uh,
See it?
I did too.
Kinda,
No,
yeah, sure.
when-
You see the very
when we
last.
lived
This is the
there,
handwritten
A lot of these trees were gone.
diary.
Yes, and
That you're all
what,
talking
what are we
about?
looking at
The
here?
last word.
Chestnut trees.
Right.
Before
And
you-
I used to walk here
Yeah, I used to
too.
walk
It
along
says
there.
Yeah,
fa-
I
father.
remember that.
Father?
This is his
It was a
letter,
neat house.
his awareness
It
of
was
the
a nice
end.
house.
So it's a goodbye letter.
It was.
Oh, that, yes.
Yeah. it was
So that's the
tough to read.
end.
But that's in English too.
Parts, but I just wanted him to see the very end of the diary.
Yes.
That's how we end.
I have a...
It's really tough.
No, not
better
English.
touch.
I do
Oh,
have
well,
some-
we'll be able to
Yeah, of
have a
course.
scan of that
That was
eventually, I
kind of
hope.
sad.
Of
Das
course.
ist ganz schrecklich, mir in die Verlangen ausgehen, alles zu tun.
I bet you Diane
eine
John
lange
had.
kommen und ist jede
There's another letter attached to this, I think I
Das
translated this.
I know you did.
Woran kommen ganz
Well, why don't we talk a little bit more about Billbrook?
Yeah.
What's the history of Billbrook? You said something about it was built for one of Napoleon's
The house
People?
was built for one of Napoleon's cousins.
cousins.
I don't remember what year.
So, well, probably when Napoleon was in the early 19th century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then who was the first owner in your family? Was
The
it
grandparents.
Gustav and
No,
No.
Clara
Clara
and
Clara and Theodore?
Theodore too.
Too. And Karstadt Porges, was that in existence? Was that company built up by Theodore?
I think they bought it from somebody.
Porges,
Named
yeah.
Karstadt.
Yeah.
Porges.
Porges?
Porges was his sister, Theodore's sister, right?
No,
No, I mean he
Cousin.
married to his sister.
cousin.
Cousin.
It was his cousin.
Okay.
Can't find that.
And so what was? Tell about going to school in Hamburg.
Well, I went to school just for 2 months. That's why I never really learned how to read or write German. And my mother would drive me to the bus, and I took 2 buses to school. And I remember going over the Red Bridge, and then the school would pick me up there. So it took quite a while. And I mean, I was 6 years old when I was doing this.
Was the school in the city of Hamburg?
Yes,
Yes.
it was a Jewish school.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't it right by the Talmud
Very close.
Do you remember the name of the school?
Carolina something.
Yeah. No, I don't remember.
Carolina.
Carolina.
Carlinenstrasse.
No.
I don't remember.
Carolina.
Schule.
Schule. Yeah.
Not middle school, but
And
lower school.
when the children first went to school the first day, they always got this great big cone, and everybody filled it up with candy. And this was just a tradition
Yeah.
that it was all over Germany.
All school children.
All the
received
school
that.
children got that on your first day of school.
What
They
a
just
great
fill
custom.
up this great big cone. I don't know what it was made out of.
Just cardboard cone with some
just let it
bunting
rain.
paper around it.
And Renee, you want to tell us about your school?
Oh, yeah, the Talmud Torah school was a Jewish school, and I was sent there just so I wouldn't get this Nazism in my head and would learn something more, a little deeper, maybe some theology, or at least some Hebrew from the Jewish side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could not go to the other schools because Jews were not allowed to go to public schools at that time. So this was my only experience.
And they closed the schools in November. We could not go to school anymore.
November what year?
1938.
No, it must have been before that.
No,
Before November.
before.
I remember being in a school in 1938 before the Kristallnacht, and the Gestapo came and lined up all the people there, all the kids, and the parents in the meantime were called. They had to stand in line as well, and the Gestapo, or the whatever they were, went through their purses, took all jewelry and money and so forth, and we were very quiet. We were warned to be very quiet, and then they left and everything was fine again.
They basically robbed you?
Yes, they did. Yeah, I
Shades of
remember
things to come.
And that was that same day as when I was in camp, and the Gestapo came, and we had to leave that camp. Everybody had to be gone by 6 o'clock. And then I was the only child from Hamburg, and the others were all from Berlin.
How old were you?
I was 6 and a half, almost 6 and a half. And Smitty, who painted the picture of our house, he came with my mother because he was not Jewish, and she wanted him to come with her so that in case she got stopped, you know, it would be him that would be stopped. And at 12 o'clock at night, she arrived at the camp. Everything was gone except one table, and that's what I slept on.
Do you want to hold up a
She
picture of
already
the house?
did.
I did.
All by yourself, you were there?
Well,
Thank
with,
you.
with one lady.
I was
One
sleeping.
lady stayed with us, with me. But everybody else was gone, and of course at that age, you don't really realize what's happening. And
Oh, I know.
I mean, you knew about the Gestapo, and you knew that you shouldn't be talking about them. And there was this girl across the street from us that lived where we lived in Billbrook, and they were from this police station. And she was always very nice, and she said, your parents don't really like Hitler, do they? And I kind of looked at her and I said, well, if you won't tell anybody, they really don't like him. And of course I came home and told my mother this, and she was just beside herself. Oh, she says, how could you say that? And I said, well, it's true, isn't it?
What?
This is children.
I guess you were too young to think about it, but did your parents ever tell you what it felt like? Like the whole country was going crazy at one
No,
One
not
time,
at
what?
that age.
No, you didn't. But did your parents ever tell you what their experience was?
After?
Yeah, after you grew up older. And
Oh, yes,
So
we
what-
talked about it.
what did they think?
Well,
what did
my
people
mother
think
wanted
about
to
what was
leave.
happening?
She wanted to leave in 1932
Hmm.
after Mein Kampf was written.
Yeah.
But, you know,
No,
nobody
that was written before that.
was
written.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
that's
before
true.
the-
After
But
she read it.
after she read it,
Well,
and
33.
before I was born,
Soon as
she
Hitler
wanted to
came
leave.
power.
And everybody said, oh no, this isn't going to happen.
So she knew something. She just felt it.
She did. She felt it. She really felt it. And she wanted to leave, but nobody wanted to leave. And finally, when it really did get bad,
It was almost too late.
it was
I'm so
almost
glad
too
she
late.
got
And
out.
they got tickets on an airplane, a little tiny airplane. And nobody knew that we were leaving except her parents. And they said, come with us, come with us. And They said, no, we're too old, you
They
know.
weren't that old.
No, they really weren't that old.
How old were they?
Well, their grandfather was born in 1865. This was, what, 1940?
38.
So he was...
No, 1938.
Well, almost 40.
He was
75,
75, something like that.
73.
Yeah.
yeah.
So the
Oh,
person
yeah.
who wrote the diary was 70, at that
In
point he
his
was 75
70s.
years old.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your parent, you said your father had been imprisoned,
Yes, he was like...
and his name was Otto Erich
Otto
Yes.
Eric.
Yeah.
Blumenfeld.
But they always called him Eric.
Erich.
Eric.
And his wife Edith too.
Edith.
She used to
Erich.
say Erich. He
Erich.
is before I.
He
He comes before I. So.
I did. My mom even received a couple of letters from the jails, and I translated that, and I have the originals as well.
Oh.
And,
Does it say what jail he was in?
it probably does in the return address.
Oh, it started with an O.
Oranienburg.
Yeah, Oranienburg.
Oranienburg.
Read one.
Sachsenhausen.
Okay. That's far from Hamburg, isn't it?
Not too far.
Not too
No?
far. Wasn't it near Berlin or on the
I
way
don't
to
know.
Berlin?
Well, that was about 150 miles away if it was Berlin.
Read that.
So he was in prison.
For 6
I have
weeks.
it here in German. I don't know if I translated it in English or not.
Yeah.
I may have.
Yeah. You just add it.
No, that's something else.
No,
I
it
don't know
wasn't,
where it
it
is.
was a
Well-
letter from,
Maybe we can get a copy of the letter. If you're...
Yeah, that's in German.
I just read it.
No, that's a different one.
So, and we don't know why they released him from prison?
No,
Oh,
but
this is right. Yeah. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Something.
The good parts,
read it.
the uplifting
No,
parts.
this is not it. Yes, it is too. Dear Edith, I already wrote you a postcard. I have not received an answer yet. I am healthy because during Christmas and New Year's no packages can be sent. Please send me about 30 marks. In the camp one can buy everything. How is it with the consul? Did he offer the visa? Can Ruth put us up until I get the visa? And she was the one in Holland. Did Winter, whoever that is, I don't know, did Winter help you get the proper papers? What do your parents do? From you, I ask that you be at ease and sensible, I hope. I hope the children are healthy. I miss you very much. Marcus at this time is sitting next to me, also writing his wife. Call her up as shared pain is only half the pain. Excuse me. Maybe now it will be Australia. Today is the first day with rain. I think of how you would have spent today in our home. Is the factory taken over? I would suppose it would because of the property. Hans is okay at home? I really don't know anything to write about since I'm waiting your mail. Mostly send cards and the readable writing. Better would be by typewriter. Hoping to be with you again soon. I kiss you all loud. And please, I repeat,
Keep up your nerves. Keep up your nerves. That alone will ease my saga. Once more, a separate kiss for you, Edith, for some time.
there's another letter too, but you want to read that one?
I remember going with my mother down to the council, and we went like 3 times a week. And she would sit there and cry, thinking, you know, that if she made a pest out of herself, that, you know, they'd give her the visa. And of course, I didn't know what she was crying about. This is in German, I can't read German.
Was that the
So it's
American
probably
consul?
The same thing. Huh?
It was she had to get a visa from the American consul and also from the German consul.
Uh-huh.
And she just literally made a pest out of herself.
Well,
And, you know, I didn't know what was going on.
So
So we both sat there and cried.
so eventually they got permission to leave
Yes.
Germany.
Yes, they did.
Variable and a
Do you
little
think it
piece
was
of paper,
her
it
pestering
didn't
help?
say much.
Did the pestering help?
They're
I
here.
don't think so. I think they finally got a visa from the States too.
Well, the Gestapo said you have to get your final papers before we let you out, and the catch-22 was
Yeah.
the American consul says you got to get them out before
Yeah.
we can give you the go-ahead. So there was a little problem there. But finally, the American consul gave her a little slip of paper that I still have here, and it says that they have to, you have to let him out now, or he will have to start all over again with the
Paperwork?
Uh-huh.
Oh, boy.
But-
So that let her go. He couldn't give her anything formal. It was just a handwritten note.
And what was the year?
Yeah,
What was the year?
1938.
38.
So they got out in 1938.
Yes, late 38.
And the grandparents could have gone, but they felt they were too old.
Well,
I
they
don't know that.
would have had to have a visa probably, but
I don't know
they
if they
were
would've-
not interested in doing it because
They
things
felt
were going to get better.
Is that what they
Did
thought?
the
No, I
grandparents
think they
end up
felt
going
they
to
were
the
too old.
camps?
I
Yes,
think so too.
those,
Yes.
the grand.
That's
yeah.
what the letter was. That
The
What?
diary.
was from.
Do you know why your father was sent to that camp? Had
Just
he done
because
something?
he was Jewish, I think.
Well, that was Kristallnacht when
Yeah.
everybody was kind of rounded up and windows were smashed.
Yeah.
And you remember all that?
Oh, I thought this was 38.
I don't
Yeah.
remember
That's
the
when it
windows.
was.
Kristallnacht
but that
was
was the
38.
day I
Yeah.
came out.
November
Yeah.
38.
But no, I don't remember the windows.
So you got out right after Kristallnacht.
Well,
Yes,
no,
no,
it was
About a month
actually
later.
Right
a
after.
month later.
Yeah, a month
About
We
later.
6
flew
weeks or
out.
something.
You flew out at
We-
the end of December.
My mother figured that if they took a boat, they might turn it back, or a train, they
Train.
might turn
Right.
it back, which they did. And the best way was to just fly. It was a little tiny plane. Oh, it was awful.
I think the train engine.
Was it-
How long was the flight?
Well, it was just
Very
to Holland.
short.
They
We
went. They flew to Holland.
Very short.
Very
Maybe
short.
what, an hour and a half? Maybe
Isn't
something
that
like
long?
They
that.
had the tickets already. They had tickets on a ship.
Right.
And says, we're not waiting for any ship or anything else. We're going to take a plane and we're going to
Leave.
get out of Germany. And the closest was Holland.
Hmm.
And they knew people there, had friends there.
Mm-hmm. And then they came from Holland. How did they leave Holland?
We
Right.
stayed there a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then there was, the money was paid by, you could book your trip and you could use the money from Germany, but everything else they
Oh,
kept,
I didn't know
except $35.
Yeah.
And then we borrowed $3,000 from the Catanios. And then when we got to the United States, as soon as we got through with immigration and customs, my dad wired it back. Because he figured, how could he ever pay $3,000? You know, that was a
To
lot
the
of money. then.
Catanios, and they were in Holland?
They were in Holland, yes.
I think you were there more than a few weeks because that picture that you showed us was January. Unless they
Well,
had
that
it
was a
developed in
boat.
January.
That was a boat
That
coming.
was
That was a boat picture when we were on the
When we were
boat.
on
You
the
mean
boat.
when we
no,
were
the
all
little
standing?
picture of you with the Catanios.
That was in 1930. Well, we
That
came
was
in.
38.
So it had to be 38.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Did-
we came in early January to the United States. I think we stayed a couple of weeks.
I thought we came
Maybe it was
February
3 weeks.
1st. I
This
can't.
would be a good movie.
It might show on your passport when we arrived
Oh.
in the
Personal
States.
story.
Well, originally, the plan was to
Yeah,
take a
Frank's
ship direct from Hamburg to New York. And that, of course, they didn't want to do. And that's why the airplane flight, and we left then
Mhm.
from Amsterdam and went direct to New York.
No, we stopped in London.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, the ship stopped in London. What, just for overnight.
What was it, SS
Oh, no.
Nord?
Nordum.
Nordum, yeah.
Mhm.
They have a ship like that named. the
Yeah.
ship.
Huh.
They do. They have
What was that? A British line?
No, it was. I think it was a
Dutch.
German line.
Oh, really?
No, Hamburg America
Nordum.
line, I think. Hamburg America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why would it be Nordum?
I don't know. Sounds like
They must have
Swedish.
been relieved to finally land.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
How did you feel at the time as children? Were you
Terrible.
afraid of what was happening?
No, I was so embarrassed when we came to the United States.
Why?
I had red shoes.
Oh.
Nobody had red shoes. They all looked at my shoes and they thought I was from outer space or something. We had all new clothes because we knew, my parents wouldn't be able to afford it here. And I had little dresses that my mother made, and they all had little matching panties. I wanted white panties like everybody else had.
Where did we go when I went to that camp?
When we first came, we went to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we were in a home camp.
Yeah.
So
that's
that my
right.
parents could live in a terrible area, which was
I
very...
didn't have to bother with that.
It
so we
wasn't
were
very expensive, and they could live in one room and then work.
kind of a co-op thing. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was. And I remember the first words I learned sitting around the table is pass the bread and shut up.
And how did you find that place?
I don't know how they
I don't know
found
how
it. Probably, it wasn't a Jewish place.
No, not at all.
And I don't
It
think
wasn't.
anyone spoke German.
No.
And I remember my first word, we were on like a farm. And I saw these cows and I pointed and they said cow. That was my first
I
word.
think it was around Plainfield, New Jersey.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that was the name of it.
Did you go through Ellis Island?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember
Yes.
that? The
Yes.
hall and all?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
And,
And you had to make sure that we were all healthy. Otherwise they wouldn't let you through.
And my mom still had the field glasses, little field
Binoculars,
glasses,
yeah.
opera glasses that she got from her dad.
I have
And I've
those.
never seen them
I
before,
have
so
them.
I said, "Where'd you get those from?" We weren't supposed to tell anybody that we had anything.
The bracelet that she's wearing, that Nancy is wearing, she had another one and I had one. And one was real and one wasn't.
Oh, wow.
And
Is yours
but
real?
that one says
I think so.
900 and mine did too. No, mine didn't say anything. And she had another one made because she wore that every single day. And she was afraid I would say, "Well, where's your bracelet?"
Yeah.
But she had sent but that is gold too.
Did
Yes,
Rose
I
make them?
don't know.
Rose?
No.
Oh.
No.
I think I remember having two, but I don't know who got them.
Well, I
Evidently this is
had one, and on mine
I
it
don't
did
know how you
not
got
say, it did not say
I
8
don't
or
know.
900.
You don't have it anymore?
No, I sold it.
We're not as rich as you.
No,
He didn't know I had it.
I never liked it.
I love it.
It was uncomfortable. That's what it was.
When our Aunt
It's a
Ada,
cuff.
lived in Boston forever, and we had her moved out to Los Angeles when she was very ill and dementia had set in and all. And I had gone back to help another relative clean out her old house, and we gave all the clothes to Goodwill and all the old clothes and stuff. And afterwards, the neighbor said, "Did you check her clothes?"
Check the
And I said, "No," and she said, "Well, she had sewn a lot of the jewelry into the hymns and stuff." I don't know if I ever told you this.
I think you
Oh
mentioned
my
it.
Yeah, so she may have gotten it out. I don't know, and we did
Somebody
find it.
got
But
it.
yeah, somebody, or maybe they're still wearing it.
Let's
don't
go
know.
to Goodwill.
Yeah, I don't know. what's there.
Too late.
Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
good
that's,
idea.
That's where she learned to hide her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff.
I think a lot of people
And what
did
year
that.
was that about?
Well, when she came over after the war because she'd lived through
I
the-
see.
in
47.
Hamburg through
Yeah.
the war.
Oh.
And what was the other thing I just thought of along those lines? It's gone now.
Well, when did they leave?
Our grandmother was involved in that prisoner of war swap. She was in a camp for, I guess, foreigners.
She
is
was
the way it
Danish, but she's married to a Jew.
Yeah.
And both of them were British subjects. She had been born in Australia. He had been born in Scotland.
Oh.
So he had to escape. I really don't know the story of how he got out.
I know some of it, which is that Helen's father paid for it.
He had to pay.
Her brother.
He had to bribe.
Yeah,
Helen's father being a Danish guy.
right.
And
he was in our United States and established.
Yeah. So he got to England, then they put him in a internment camp because he was German.
Absolutely, we're talking about Helga.
He paid to get Helga out.
Yes.
Helga was in jail in Hamburg. I think Fuhlsbüttel was the name of the jail. And they arranged for prisoner exchange. So she and some other women that the Germans had interned were exchanged for some Germans that the British had interned through. They went through Holland, and she whispered to Inga as she was getting on the boat or something, "They beat me up in jail. You know, they beat her in the jail." And all she had done was be married to a Jewish
You didn't need much.
guy.
No,
Yeah.
you didn't need any.
Then the other thing Inga told me about the Hamburg police was they had a family. Their name was Kring, I remember, and the Krings were very nice people. The father was a policeman, and he got sent to Poland in the late 30s. I guess in 1939 when the Germans entered Poland, and when he came back, they asked him what he did there, and he wouldn't talk about it. And then later on, I read that the Hamburg police were kind of instrumental in rounding up and killing the Jews in Poland.
Hamburg police?
Yeah.
Why would
The
they be?
Hamburg police?
They were called up or nationalized and
I see.
put in
Like the
the
National Guard.
like an army or something and sent into Poland.
And I think we told you earlier that my father had come over with his grandmother and to America, and she had died soon thereafter, and he ended up going to Alaska with his aunt. And in his 90s, he was still asking, why didn't they send for me?
Why did they bring me back
Why didn't they
home
bring me
to
back?
Hamburg?
Yeah.
That can,
Oh, I didn't hear
goodness
that.
they
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he kind of resented the family sending him away, but he also knew that he
What
would have been dead if they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. He would have been in Inga's situation. He was a Michelin.
Yeah, I do wonder if I don't know. The other thing,
From sent to the
Inga's
front.
yeah, the other thing Inga said was
Yeah.
that it was a very lawless time in Hamburg. That whole
My
period,
dad's
especially when this
mother
Russians
also came to Seattle after the war, probably about 1948 or 9. Can't remember the exact date.
What was her name?
Marie.
Marie Blumenfeld?
Mimi, or Mimi.
Mimi
we used to call
Blumenfeld.
it, Yes.
I remember.
And she didn't last too long. I don't know how old she was.
Well, I don't think she was very old, but
She was in her 80s.
she seemed old.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well,
She didn't speak the language.
She didn't speak the
Very
language.
difficult.
She didn't know anybody.
Right.
But one day she used to walk away.
Very
Yeah.
hard.
She walked away, and I happened to be at my folks' place, and we're having some coffee there, and here, knock on the door, and a couple of Seattle cops were there. Says, "Well, we have somebody we could get out of Rose Blumenfeld, and here she is." And Mom said, so they were, everybody was happy to see everybody else, and Grandma was saying, "But aren't you going to pay him?" She thought it was a taxi.
When her proposed Pat, Mark's parents, he asked Pat to marry her, and he says, "But before you give me your answer, I got to tell you something. I'm Jewish,
Part Jewish. Yeah.
part Jewish."
Oh, and then he didn't marry her.
He did.
No, he
Oh, he
didn't.
didn't.
She said
Yeah.
she didn't care.
in spite of it all.
But well, that's how. I guess that's how he thought people felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
may
this
have
was
been
at
so.
42
Yeah, yeah.
in the United States.
I see.
So, but yeah.
I'm going to say one more thing about the Hamburg police, which was that Inga said that they had taken her mother into the Gestapo or the local mayor or
Yes, yeah.
political people. Anyway, took her into talk to the Gestapo, and she chatted with them, and then they let her go, but it was out a back door. So it was a one-way door. She didn't see where out
Yeah.
was. And then when they came, they knocked on the door. These two guys who were not police, but were officials of some sort from Hamburg, and they said, "Is Mrs. Hildesheim here?" And she turned around to call her mother, and her mother was there with her suitcase all prepared.
Oh my
And
God.
she said she just remembers, and she was a very small, short person.
Mm-hmm.
Helga was, and she just brings these two tall guys escorting this little tiny woman, away as if she were a criminal. Anyway.
So, do you know? Can you tell us something about your great grandparents? Do you know much about Gustav and
I know
Carolyn?
nothing.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Your family didn't talk about them.
No,
No.
They died before you were born.
no.
Did they die before?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
yes.
I think Carolyn. I'm not sure, but I think she died in 21 because that's when they stopped listing her in the Amber directory.
Yeah.
No, we
And he
never-
died
I
in
never-
1909.
We never discussed much family or
No.
politics or other surroundings other than the business itself a little bit.
Oh, we were too young.
Yeah, probably.
But later on, when
Oh,
you talked to
later on.
Edith and Eric,
No, they didn't speak much
No.
about things.
No.
because Jan and I were talking about this. Gustav was quite an important person.
Yes.
Yes,
So
he
was his
was.
brother
I
Ernst.
didn't even know about him until I read this
Mm-hmm.
diary.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So you did, and you never knew any family members named Hildesheim.
No.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or Hilton. Or Hill.
Until now.
Yeah.
Until now.
Okay. Let me pause this for a minute, if I can. How do I do that?